Are you able to see it?
Share the screen. Yes, open the camera. This session we are going to see how to configure RAID controller on a physical server. We are going to install ESXi host on a physical server. Why? Because on a virtual machine VMware workstation, we are not in a position to power on VM because that is a virtual hardware. We are not in a position to power on the VM and see what files are available. We are going to discuss how to create a VM on a VMware workstation. Before that, we'll see how to configure RAID on a physical server. We are going to restart the physical server. We have a IBM System X 3550. So, Srini, please reboot the system. And the post screen, whatever the post screen is going to come into picture, we are need to monitor for the post screen. In that post screen, we can see what is the RAID controller it is going to display. Under the RAID controller, we are going to configure what are the physical disks are available and what are the options are available to configure RAID controller. Why RAID controller in the sense? We are going to work on in virtualization only on physical server. We are going to install operating system. That operating system should run on a redundancy disk. Redundancy disk in the sense there will be a hard disk. That hard disk, whatever the hard disk is available, most hardwares, even blade servers, by default comes with the two hard disks. So those two hard disks we are going to club together by using RAID controller and then create a RAID 1. RAID 1 in the sense mirror. We will see what is a RAID controller. We are using for this setup IBM System X. Okay. In the System X series, this is a very old rack 1U rack server. So see what are the screens are coming onto picture like in post screen. Whatever the server we are going to select physical server in virtualization layer, either any virtualization, not only VMware, even if a Microsoft virtualization you are going to use, you are going to load operating system on a physical server only. While coming up the boss screen, the controller is going to come into picture. As soon as you see the RAID controller, there is an option to press the sequence. Control R, Control A, whatever the sequence it is going to come into picture, you need to make sure press that control sequence. See here in the screen, network card detected. What are the network card ports are available on the system? See, adapter RAID controller. Press Control A. By pressing Control A, it is going to enter into IBM server RAID configuration utility. Is that key is pressed? So once it is Control A, you can see press Control A to enter IBM server RAID configuration utility. For each hardware, definitely there is an option available to enter into RAID configuration. Why we need to configure? This RAID information is very important to load an operating system. We are not going to load on a single point of failure hard disk. If without configuring RAID, if you start with installation, what will happen if something goes on with the one hard disk, it is going to fail the loading of the operating system. So whatever the disks are available, we'll see how many disks are available and proceed with respect to steps. Now press array configuration utility. What are the things are available? We'll see. See, manage array, create array, initialize drives, rescan drives, secure arrays drives. There are different options. First, we are going to see manage arrays. Click on manage arrays. What is the array? Existing array. Is there any array is available on the system? What is the array is available? There is an array. What is that? RAID 1. It is already created. We are going to destroy this. Currently, this server has an operating system, but to showcase how to create a RAID controller, we are going to destroy, and before destroying we need to make sure there is no operating system running, there is no data availability. Whatever the data is there, if you are going to delete it is going to erase entire data. So please make sure if you are going to work on production environment, this particular configuration you should not touch. If you are planning to reload operating system, then it's okay. Okay, so press enter. See, there is array utility is available. What is array and all those things? It is going to show here. What is the array? We are going to destroy this array. Okay. Press escape to previous menu. Go back. Escape again. Escape, one more escape. Disk utilities. Click on disk utilities. See how many disks are available to this particular system. There are two physical disks are available, wherein what is the size of the disk? Each disk 279 GB. So two disks are connected to this particular system. So by using these two physical disks, we are going to create an array. What is the array availability there? By default, RAID controller going to support either RAID 0 or RAID 1 or RAID 5 according to availability of the physical disk. This RAID controller, we can call it as a kind of virtualization. What it is going to do? It is going to use the physical devices and it is going to create a virtual disk, a logical disk, so that it is going to maintain the redundancy. Okay, so just go back. Array configuration utility. Secure arrays drives. Select drives. Move the mouse. Mouse can be moved.
The mouse is not coming.
Not coming. See this option. What is the option? It is available. Delete this. We need to delete this array. Just go back and see what is the array option. Delete options available. One more escape and see. Is this main screen? No, go back. Go back. No, no, not. Select no. Array configuration utility. Manage array, create array. One second. Select that array control escape. See below options are available. Enter to display array, delete array. Press del to delete array. Whatever the delete. Yes. Delete. Yes. No arrays present. Now the arrays, there is no arrays available. What we are going to do, we know that there are two physical devices are available. We are going to create an array. Select create an array. So disks are available. We are going to add those disks. See, below options are available. Page up, down, enter to complete selection, escape to cancel selection. Press enter. Whatever the disk we are going to see here, we are going to select that.
Here one more option is there for insert.
In,
Click
insert,
insert.
click insert. Insert tab is there, keyboard. Press insert. Below an option is there. And yes, select one more thing and press insert. Just insert. See, these two disks are added to the selected drives. What are the physical devices are available? We selected. Now, to proceed an action to create an array, we need to press enter to complete selection. Press enter. Here, there are different options are available. What is the type of array you can create? Write 0. What is write 0? Write 0 is nothing but stripe set. Stripe set in the sense, here 279 GB is available each size. If you go with write 0, it is going to club together 279 plus 279. But our intention is to create operating system redundancy, that whatever the operating system we are going to load, that disk should have a redundancy. If one disk should fail means my operating system should not impact. That is my intention. So what is the option is available? We have to choose only RAID 1. If it is if we have three disks are available, there is one more option is going to come into picture, RAID 5. Even RAID 5 also there is an option available, even it is can tolerate one disk failure. In RAID 0, it is not going to provide any redundancy. If one disk failed, my data is going to loss. So what RAID option we need to choose? We need to choose RAID 1. RAID 1 is nothing but mirror. Whatever the operating system we are going to load an operating server, physical server, by default, we are going to choose a RAID 1 controller, RAID 1 array. Array is nothing but it is going to club two physical disks together and going to create a one logical disk. We'll see. By selecting RAID 1, select RAID 1. You can go to RAID concepts. What is the RAID concepts? What is the minimum disk requirement? Press enter. What is the minimum disk requirements? Array label, you can give array label as a data. Just type data. You can name it anything. Just it is giving a seed in drive partition. Now you are going to create same. Or else you can mention as a OS. Whatever it may be. Okay. See, array size. What is array size? By clubbing, by using two hard disk, physical hard disk, 279 GB each. I'm clubbing two hard disks. Then what is the array size? It is going to come into picture 279 GB. Okay. If you select RAID 0, it is going to show you 500 plus 279 plus 279. That is array. But that is not my requirement to load an operating system on a physical server. So that's the reason I selected RAID 1. Then I'm proceeding with next. What are the options? Are default, leave it the default options and click done. And see finally, select at last, the done option is there. Done. Creating array. So we need to see is it array created or not. May click on manage array, enter, press enter. Data, the RAID control is already created. What is the RAID option? The logical drive we have on this system 279 GB. That RAID configuration utility is configured. Whatever the virtualization operating system you are going to load in interview questions, definitely they are going to ask how you are going to start the installation. You should make sure you need to point that I need to make sure I'll connect the server remotely. There is a remote management card available. Unfortunately, this is a old server. Remote management card is not available. That's the reason we are showing in the monitoring. in the monitor. Otherwise, we have an option remote management card, ILO, IMM for IBM, DRAC for Dell server. For every hardware, there is a IBM remote management card available. We are going to open in web browser and then connect to the console and change the BIOS settings. What are the BIOS settings we need to make sure for virtualization? We need to make sure their BIOS settings. Press enter and go to enter into the BIOS setting. RAID configuration is done. What are the prerequisites to install the virtualization operating system? One is we need to make sure RAID control is configured or not. The second component is CPU feature. CPU feature, there is an option in available. Hyper-threading and virtualization technology is enabled or not. If you are not enabled virtualization technology on BIOS, you will find under CPU options. VT technology, virtualization technology, this is a CPU feature. Without enabling CPU feature, virtualization technology, click S and go to BIOS setting. Press F1 to enter into BIOS. So here, whatever the virtualization operating system you are going to load, what are the prerequisites? Prerequisites in the sense before loading operating system, virtualization operating system, what are the components we need to cross check? We need to go to the BIOS and make sure under CPU, the virtualization technology is enabled or not. That is the first component. Second component, hyperthreading. Why hyperthreading? Hyperthreading gives you an option to provide more CPU capacity. It is going to double the CPU capacity. Why we are going to use the server to perform in a high performance. So to make it as available on a high performance, we need to enable hyperthreading. These two options, one is enabling virtualization technology and other one is hyperthreading. These two features available in a BIOS. Once these two settings are done, the third option is we need to check RAID controller is configured or not. Once these three settings are done, then we are ready to proceed with virtualization installation, OS installation. Okay, let's see in a BIOS where is that hyper technology. Hyperthreading is if some motherboard supports, then it will be available. If not, we cannot do that hyperthreading. Let's go to the BIOS and see hyper technology, hyperthreading and VT technology, virtualization technology is available or not. For every hardware, even you can give a try to install on your local desktop, on laptop, go to the BIOS and go to the processor and you can notice hyper VT technology. Go to system information, go to processor settings, product system, device, then go to devices. Here, processor device is not available. This is a hardware information. What is a server and all those things. I need to go to where I need to go. I need to go to processor setting. Click on escape. Go to advanced setup. Yes. Here, see what is the CPU options. Where I need to go? CPU option. Under processor, these two features by default available. Go to CPU options and press enter. See here, Intel virtualization technology. Select that Intel virtualization technology. Some motherboards it will show as a VT technology. Some motherboards it will show as a virtualization. This virtualization option is available under CPU options. We need to go to the BIOS and make sure this is enabled. This is enabled here. That is fine. Then what next we have to do is the option. Second option, what is that? Hyperthreading is available or not. This hyperthreading is not available here. That's the reason we are not in a position to enable hyperthreading. Otherwise, that hyperthreading and this virtual technology, both options are available under BIOS. So It makes sure virtualization technology is enabled. That's fine. We are set to go to install ESXi operating system. RAID control is configured, CPU options verified. Then we are ready to proceed with ESXi host installation. Click escape and come out and start ESXi host installation. So how you are going to do by sitting remotely? To perform all these options, we need a remote management card on the server. That remote management card is nothing but for Dell servers, it is a DRAC card, we call it as. In interview question, definitely they'll ask, how do you connect, how do you access a remote server? There should be a remote management card. That remote management card, IP information and user credentials will be provided by data center guy. Once I have the details, I'll start with installation. Okay. Let it start and boot the device and see what it is going to show. It will boot, let it boot, start with installation. During interview questions, how do you deploy ESXi host? If you say that I'll load the CD and start installation, that in the sense you don't have any experience on deploying virtualization physical servers, because you need to provide the sequence. What is the sequence you are following? Without remote management card, you are not in a position to connect. Where do you insert? It is not a system which is available in front of your place. It is sitting on remote location. You are the engineer. You have to load an operating system on a remote system. How do you connect that remote system from your system? You need to explain the process. I should have a remote management card details. Remote management card details in the sense, either what is the server model. You should have server model information according to your experience. If you are selling that I'm managing Dell server, then you should say DRAC. Okay. If you say that I'm managing HP servers, I worked on HP servers, definitely you should have an experience on ILO, integrated lights out. For example, if you say in a resume, I worked on Dell servers or I worked on IBM servers. What is IBM servers remote management card? You should be aware. If you mention in the resume that IBM servers and you are pointing ILO, then there is a conflict. That in the sense you are giving yourself the information that you don't have any real-time experience. So these are the basics information. So remote management card, if you are going to provide information that I am an experienced guy, you need to provide the information that what management card you are going to connect. My previous environment, working on this Dell server. So I connect the Dell DRAC server, DRAC controller. I'm going to enter the IP address in browser and provided the credentials. And then I'll go to the BIOS and check is that server is compatible for the virtualization options. CPU, under CPU options, we need to make sure which VT technology is enabled or not. Second option, hyperthreading is enabled or not. These two settings are done. Then I'll see, is there any RAID controller available on that system? I need to make sure the RAID controller is configured with RAID 1, because to maintain a redundancy, once RAID controller is configured, I am ready to load the operating system. In which remote management card, there is an option to mount ISO image to the remote management card. We don't have any CD. There won't be any CD-ROM. Okay. We need to say that I need to download the ISO image. That ISO image I am going to mount to virtual media. That remote management card is going to provide an option to mount ISO image. From where I'm going to boot. There is no CD-ROM. I'm not going to sit in front of the system to boot from the CD-ROM. So here in most of the remote management tools, once a remote management card is connected, there is an option to mount the ISO image. There is a connect to console, there is an option to mount ISO image. Once ISO image mounted, it can boot from the respective operating system bootable image. So that's a process, how we are going to work on physical servers. Is a VR, we are going to discuss about only virtualization. Virtualization is only possible to install on a physical server only. So how you are going to install physical server, you need to explain all these things. What is the sequence, where to go, how to go. There are plenty of videos available in YouTube. Go ILO management interface, how it look like. Okay, direct interface, how it look like. IMM, integrated management module for IBM servers. If you are going to say that this is my hardware devices in my environment, you should provide some basic information. What are the system models? What are the hardware models you worked on? You need to provide some model numbers. On that model numbers, if you are telling IBM servers, you need to provide IMM, how you worked on IMM. You need to connect console to troubleshoot some issues. Okay, this is the process. Let it continue this installation. Okay, once installation is completed, we are going to assign an IP address to the system. Then it is ready for to connect VC client. We already have an VC client on our system, so we can connect our virtualization. That VMware workstation we already created an ESXi host. There we'll try to connect and see how to create a virtual machine. We already set up the storage, we already set up the network, everything is ready. Only thing is that to create a virtual machine. How to create a virtual machine? Okay, so that we'll proceed next options. Let's see if it is completed fast, then we can proceed with next and see what is the display screen it is going to come up. Here disk is not detected. What is the problem here? The issue is here we created an array. And once array is created, there is an option initialize disk. That's the reason it is not showing the disk to proceed next. Okay, Srini is going to work on that and get ready for this installation by tomorrow. Okay, on a physical server, we'll create a virtual machine and proceed with next. Now we are going to switch over to VMware workstation and how to create a virtual machine. What are the options are available? We'll go through that. Okay, Srini, connect to your system, VMware workstation, and then proceed to next options. You connect to your system, you will proceed installation, ESXi host installation later. Open VMware workstation. We'll create how to create a virtual machine. As per previous session, we completed all the setup, like storage is done. We created a data store, and then we created a virtual switch. All those setups are done. We are ready to proceed with virtual machine creation. Okay, let's see. Make note of all the information, how you are going to present, how you are going to correlate real-time environment. Open VC client, let it start. Is it communicating the same network? Everything is in same network. Oh, I hope so. Yes, it is same network. Open VC client. Let it start. It is not yet ready. Once it is ready, we can start. Okay. So now we are going to proceed with creating a virtual machines. How to create virtual machine? We made it ready, like storage is ready, network is also ready for this particular environment. So I'm ready to proceed with create a virtual machines. While creating a virtual machines, what are the options are going to come into picture? We are going to see. So how to create a virtual machine? Right click on the ESXi host. There are different options are available. First, we need to proceed with and create a new virtual machine. What are the other options? We'll see later. This is a wizard. It is going to come into picture as we are going to understand the concepts of virtual machines. What we are going to do, we have to choose the custom option. Select custom option. Next, virtual machine test. Give the test VM. You can give the name, how we are going to give the VM names in enterprise environment according to server name. I told you we are going to receive the build book. Build book in the sense what server I need to deploy, what is the server name, what is the IP address, what voice operating system I need to load. All those information will be there on that particular request. According to that request only, I'm going to deploy. So whatever the name it is presented there, I'm going to mention the same name over here. Okay, test VM. Just proceed next. Here, we already created two data stores, local set data store 1, local data store 2. Okay, so what it is going to do, what are the VM we are going to create? That VM is nothing but it is going to create a files. What it is going to do, it is going to create a folder with that particular name on that respective data store. What is the data store? It is a file system layout. That is a VMFS data store. So we are going to select that data store to store this particular virtual machine files. Select, okay, proceed next. It is highlighted one thing and we'll see what files are it is going to create and proceed next. We selected one data store and to store the data. Here, what is this options? What is virtual machine 4? What is virtual machine 7? What hardware version? What is that hardware version? Hardware version is nothing but for every motherboard, for every operating server, there is a bias. Bias in the sense motherboard. On the motherboard, there is a program, bias program we call it as. How it is going to support, how many devices it is going to support, how much CPU it is going to support, how much RAM it is going to support. All those information will be there on that motherboard. Now, it is my responsibility while creating a hardware. I need to design what motherboard I need to choose, what BIOS program I need to choose. There are different options are available. For each virtual machine hardware version, you can see that what is the versions it is going to support. See virtual machine 4. If you see virtual machine 4, where starting version. If you see this particular option, here, what is the ESXi? ESXi up to 3.5. That in the sense, earlier version 3.5, 4.1. See here, VM version supports. As per the ESXi operating system, it is going to support. If you load ESXi 4.1, only VM hardware version 7 is available. As we are working on 6.0 update 2, that's the reason there are different hardware versions. We'll see what is the difference by selecting the hardware. What is the different options it is going to prompt you. Okay, just proceed with selecting VMware hardware version 4 and see what is the limitation of CPU, what is the limitation of memory, so that you can understand what is this hardware. VM machine version is nothing but it is a BIOS, the motherboard we are creating. Okay, select VM version 4 and proceed next. See, what is operating system? Drop down the list of operating systems. What is the maximum Windows operating system it is going to support? Maximum it is going to support 2008 R2 only. I cannot load 2016, 2012 operating systems. This motherboard, what are the motherboard? Well, it selected VM version 4. That's VM version 4 supports only these many operating systems. Not list. List is not more. Very limited operating systems. Okay. Okay. Select Windows 2008 R2. That is the maximum operating system it can support. Proceed. Next. We can select a Linux operating system. We can select go back. Windows. We can select if you want to load Linux. Whatever the operating system you are going to load. This is not loading an operating system. We are creating a hardware to support that respective operating system. Once hardware is created, it's respective engineer responsibility to load respective operating system. For example, you need to deploy Windows operating system. So we need to make sure what is the operating system I'm going to load on this virtual hardware. I need to choose the respective operating system list over here. If I say loading Linux operating system, I'm going to use this particular virtual hardware to load a Linux operating system. If I go with this option, it is going to malfunction. It is not going to perform properly. Even I can load a Linux operating system, I may not load Linux operating system. Because whatever the virtual hardware I'm going to create, that virtual hardware I'm selecting a Windows operating system. So I need to load only Windows operating system. Selecting this operating system doesn't mean that it is loading an operating system. We are make sure that it is a compatible, this hardware, this virtual hardware is compatible to this respective operating system. Okay, select Linux and see what are the options are coming up in picture. See, these are the Linux operating system. What is the Red Hat 5? Now Red Hat 7 is going on. What hardware version we selected? It is a BIOS version, VMware workstation, VM version 4 we selected. See what are the options are going to come. We'll see difference between VM version 4 and latest version. Select Windows and proceed next. See CPUs, how many sockets it can available. Drop down and see how many CPUs I can attach. Only 4. Select 4. Maximum how many CPUs I can attach. Drop down number of cores per socket. You should understand what is socket, what is a core. In CPU topics we discussed about what is socket. It is irrelevant. What are the CPU sockets on physical hardware doesn't matter here. The virtual hardware can select any sockets, any virtual machine, any cores, doesn't matter. I can select one socket, 4 cores, or 4 sockets, each 1 core. Doesn't matter, any problem. Okay, here maximum 4 cores I can create, 4 CPUs I can create. That is a maximum limit. Proceed next. What is the maximum memory I can support here? 32 GB only. Maximum, what is the memory? Maximum I can create 32 GB memory. That is the limitation of VM version 4. Now I am going to choose another VM version and see what is the difference options are going to come into picture. Go back. Now select VM version 7. and see what is the difference between you are noticing what are the operating system it can support. Click next. And Windows operating system, what is the operating system it can support? Drop down and see. There are different operating systems compared to previous screen. There are more operating system it is going to support. Okay, again it is supporting until only 2008 R2 only. Click next. See CPU difference. What is CPU options are going to come into feature for under VM version 7. Drop down sockets. How many sockets it is going to support? Maximum 4. Okay. Select 4. Drop down. Okay. Proceed next. What is the memory? Previous VM version 4, the max limit is 32 GB. What is the limitation here? Until 256 GB I can configure. Okay. This is a version to version, that is a motherboard version. According to motherboard version, what is the operating system it is going to support, what is the memory it is going to support, what is the CPU it can support, it all depends upon the according to VM version. VM version 4.7 is nothing but it is a BIOS program. Motherboard, we are going to create a motherboard. Okay, go to back and select the latest version, VM version, and see what's the difference options we are going to contain in the picture. Go back. Click back, go back and select VM version 11. VM version 11. See, there below option is there. This version run on only ESX6 and later. That ESXi host we already loaded 6. That's the reason I'm getting this option VM version 11. VM version 11 is nothing but it is the latest hardware. Click next. Drop down the list. Go back. Go back. Go back. Okay, next. See operating systems. What is the operating system it can support? Even 2016 also I can load. Previous hardware versions, what is the options available until 2008 R2 only. So that's a even list of operating system increased. That's compatibility. Okay, the latest version is going to provide more compatibility. Now I'm going to select a 2012 and proceed next. CPU, see what are the CPU options are going to come into picture, how many CPUs I can attach. Here it is showing generally it can support more CPUs because this hardware is limited for limited processor. That's the reason I'm not getting options here. Then only max 4 CPUs it is giving an option. It is all depends upon the hardware where I'm going to load. Select 2 CPUs. Proceed next. See memory, how much memory? One version it supports only 32 GB. One version it supports 256 GB. Now this version, latest version supports up to 2 TB. Is that memory is available on my hardware? It is not available. So we need to choose according to the hardware availability. If that physical hardware is not compatible, it is going to throw an error or it is going to create a malfunction. We need to make sure what is a availability. According to that, I need to create a virtual machine because the virtual machine what I'm going to create to perform maximum utilization. Okay, select 4 GB, click next. NIC adapter. See here, I'm going to assign a NIC adapter here. One NIC adapter. What is a NIC adapter? Where the switch is going to connect? Drop down here. What are the port groups I created? There are different port groups I created. DB server created. Okay, finance created, HR created, VM network created, web servers created. If I select DB server, in previous session, DB server is not assigned to any outbound network. Okay, we'll see that. We'll select finance and see, select finance and proceed. What it is option, we are going to create a network card and that network card on which switch we need to connect, on which switch, on which port group we need to connect. So that's the reason it is going to show you. Okay, the session is going to end. No problem. We'll continue tomorrow session. Okay. Just proceed next. The controller. What is a controller? SCSI controller to create a hard disk. There are different controllers are available. By default, LSL logic SAS we are going to use. Okay. If you want to use paravirtual, you can use paravirtual, but that respect to whatever the operating system you are going to load, that operating system should support that controller. Then only what are the disk it is visible, that particular disk will be visible on the operating system disk. Okay, next. Create a new hard disk. I'm going to create a new hard disk to load my operating system. I'm going to provide a disk. CPU provided, memory provided, network card provided. Now I'm creating a disk to load my operating system. Okay, create a new virtual disk, click next. Okay, here I should have sufficient space. I have a data store with only 8 GB. So I am going to create only 2 GB. Just select 2 GB. I'm going to create only 2 GB hard disk and see what is going to do. Proceed next. This is a SCSI ID. Drop down the list. SCSI controller by default supports how many devices it can support. 15 devices it can support. Okay, by default it is going to select 00. There are 4 controllers that I can create on this particular server. On a virtual machine, 4 controls I can create. So by default, only one disk I'm going to attach. So I'm going to select 0.0. That in the sense, SCSI controller, first SCSI controller, on the controller, I'm going to use a 0 ID. Okay, that is the first disk. Click next. This is all the configuration I created virtual machine. I selected CPU. I selected motherboard. Hardware version I selected. Next, CPU selection, memory selection, network selection, storage selection. My system is ready. My virtual machine is ready to load operating system. Click finish. Click finish. See, expand. This test VM is got created. What is the test VM is created? See what is the test VM. Right click on edit settings. Edit, right click on test VM. Go to edit settings. Edit settings. These are the options. I can change the options. So whatever the same options are required, I can change. Okay. Now try to power on the system. Am I able to power or not? I will see that. Try to power on and see. Open Connect console. Right click on that. Because there is no operating system is loaded, that's the reason it is going to show you no bootable device error, no operating system found. Once a virtual machine is created, it's my responsibility to mount ISO image. Tomorrow session, next session, we are going to load an operating system on a physical virtualization server. That what are the server we created, RAID controller on that system. We are going to create a virtual machine and we are going to copy ISO image, how to mount, how to deploy on a virtual machine on a physical server. Here the resources are very less on this VMware workstation. That's the reason we are using physical server in next session. Okay. So tomorrow session, we are going to see what are the options are going to come into picture for virtual machine, how to load an operating system, what are the VM files are available, all those things we are going to discuss in next session. Okay, bye.